What is up, everybody? Welcome to Party on Broad. Today, our NBA draft coverage continues with the best of the best. He is Sean_Bernard1 on X. What's up, Sean?
Not too much. I'm starting to get that itch. I'm excited about the draft coming. I'm diving into all these prospects, and I know we were chatting up a little beforehand, but I'm into this draft class that I don't think this is as bad as being portrayed, and a lot of guys that I'm excited to talk about.
Exactly. I know the odds are the Sixers are going to move the pick, number 16. But like you said, I feel like the more we've invested into this draft, the more we're identifying guys that actually fit what the Sixers, I think, are looking for. It's not top heavy, but it's deep, and it's filled with older win now prospects, role players that could excel in Philadelphia. That's your vibe too?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what, yes, it's light on the top end talent, but there's a lot of guys that I think are just going to have some really successful NBA careers. And again, one of the frustrations with the Sixers that we've talked about a great amount of times is their lack of young talent or their really willingness or desire to go in and add those pieces. That is much more about in the present, the win now mode that they are in. So this trading the pick would be an opportunity for passing up, bringing one of those talents in, which I hope they don't go down that path.
Yeah, that's the fine line Daryl Morey is going to have to walk this offseason, balancing win now guys, guys like Ricky Council, another guy that could also young legs to add to this roster. It's going to be really interesting. He's got his work cut out for him. But let's jump into our top five. Guys, if you didn't see our earlier video, the link to the top five draft targets is below. But quick recap, Team Sean has Devin Carter number 1, Tristan Da Silva number 2, Dalton Connect number 3. Back-to-back great shooters for Team Sean. He's then got Isaiah Collier and then Jared McCain. 4 out of 5 are great shooters. I'll say that. And then for myself, Devin Carter, Dalton Connect, Jared McCain, Tijan Salon, and Jacoby Walter. So today we are talking prospects 6 through 10. And we're going to lead off. Last time we went 5-1. I think we should just go 6-10.
Yeah.
It'll just be a little easier. With that being said, who is your number 6 target for the Sixers?
And just a quick note there that I did make a little swap to slide Tristan Da Silva up to my number 2 prospect for the Sixers. I continue to fall a little bit more in love with him as a player, so he has climbed up my list a little further. But the continued, yeah, he is. The cutting has really stood out to me lately watching and things, which is really appealing. So he did climb to number 2 for that. For number 6 on my Sixers big board, I'm throwing Ron Holland here. And I had a tough time for where to fully place Holland. Ultimately, I do think he likely gets drafted before the Sixers are on the clock at 16. I feel like I'm missing something with this guy. That to me, he's nearly the complete package. That I know the efficiency is not quite there. He still has things to work on, but he has the real deal 6'8" body. He is a terror in transition. He can just put the ball up at a level where guys cannot reach to, slam it down from that. He's got the real deal athleticism. I think he's a little bit cut from and I know this guy didn't pan out 100% as we expected, but sort of the Justice Winslow type of player where I think he's likely always going to be a defense first guy. But I think there's a real world where Ron Holland walks into the NBA and is capable of guarding number 1 options on a regular basis. There's a little bit of Tari Easton in his game as well. And I do think that there's offense to be more untapped. So I like Ron Holland. I would absolutely take him at 16. I do think he probably goes before the Sixers make their pick, but I didn't want to leave him off this list.
Yeah, he's a guy that a lot of people, had him as the number 1 guy in this draft. And he's kind of fallen a little bit, but he's still, I think, a solid. Do you expect lottery pick?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think he'll be lottery still. But he does seem like a faller. The more that comes out, the more it seems like teams aren't all in on him, which has surprised me.
Yeah, him in transition is electric. He was 70 of 98 from the field on transition rim attempts last year. I also like his defensive upside as well. You listed the height, but he's clearly. I like the Justice Winslow nod too, because this is a guy that definitely can probably defend 1 through 4 if we're talking small ball force. So very switchable. Excellent at running the court, and definitely a fit there with Tyrese Maxey, no doubt about it. The perimeter shooting is a little bit of a concern, no doubt. Yes, he's a two-way wing, but he finished the season shooting 24% from 3 on 3.3 3-point attempts per game. Shot 28.6% in the mid-range. But the good news is he did shoot 73% from the free throw line There's a lot of these guys that I think have really nice tools, but the outside shot just isn't there yet.
Yeah, and I think that particularly is being held against Ron Holland for a large reason because the G League Ignite pathway has not been the cleanest so far. That when you look at a lot of these guys making the leap, the Jalen Greens of the world, guys like Scoot Henderson this year, or even Jonathan Kuminga, like it hasn't been immediate impact guys in the way that like their talent level was kind of the expectation it would be the case. So I think that's being held against Holland for some of the past mistakes there. I see it. The shot does he's going to have to work through. But overall, to me, like I think the floor is pretty high from all the other things that he can do that it's worth the gamble. So I like Holland, and I think there's a real chance that he outperforms his draft slot by a decent margin when everything's said and done with this draft.
Yeah, he's exactly what the Sixers are looking for. He's a kind of a home run swing for the Sixers if he's there at number 16. Major upside. There's a lot to like about Ron Holland. Mr. Sandman chimes in. Bronny James won't sign a two-way contract. We've talked a lot about Bronny James. I think in our first show, I think we both agree we would bite the bullet and draft him first round or second round because the more I've looked into like the options for the Sixers this offseason, LeBron James, whether you love him or hate him, it's clear he's one of the top fits for the Sixers as a free agent. Are you kind of in the same frame of mind?
I am, yes. And as a Jordan guy, if LeBron were to come to Philly and win a championship, I might have to turn heel there and go become a LeBron James guy. But ultimately, I don't think I expect him to leave LA. I'm still confused by everything that's going on out there in Los Angeles at this point. I don't see a basketball reason why he would want to stay. I get like the bright lights of Los Angeles and everything else he's got going on. But I do think that there's like a world where he does leave if Bronny gets drafted to a different situation that's appealing. But I don't know. I don't think it's worth the risk without the assurance that that's going to happen.
Yeah. I haven't really looked into Bronny James that much, to be honest. He wasn't really on my list, but it is what it is. Mr. Sandman says Sixers need rebounding. You can't start a fast break with Maxey if you can't clean the boards. That has been the Sixers issue for a long time. And I think, when we look at some of the wings available, like that, this is an area that I think it's okay to move on from a guy like Kelly Oubre. And there's a reason why when he was out there, they were getting destroyed on the glass by the New York Knicks. So I think a lot of Sixers fans have like an attachment with Kelly Oubre, and I love Kelly Oubre, but I think there's definitely some better fits than Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, Kelly's not perfect. He's certainly more of a theoretical shooter than one in actuality that he's just not. He shoots like 31% from three, which is below average. And that's always been kind of my driving force. Spacing's the name of the game when you have a team built around Joel Embiid. So that's very important to me. I still like Kelly, and he did enough good outside of that I would like him back on the right contract. But I have a pretty strong bar for price dependent for that I'm not breaking the bank for Kelly by any means. And to like the rebounding conversation, a guy like Ron Holland, 6.6 rebounds per game this year at the G League level, has that real deal size, that real deal athleticism. Guys like that are going to make immediate impacts more so than Oubre, and certainly guys like Tobias Harris there. So Holland's a guy that kind of fits that category.
Yeah. All right. Let's roll on. We both had Ron Holland, number 6 here. There he is, number 6 on our top 10 big board for the Sixers. Do you want to lead off with number 7 or do you want me to?
I can jump into this guy, a little bit out of the box fun here. But for my number 7 on my Sixers big board is Bobby Klintman here, playing out there in Sweden at this point. He did spend a year at Wake Forest last year, which is where I honestly kind of began to get attached to his game. He's certainly another lottery ticket type pick here that I see the strengths you have listed as an off-ball scorer, defensive upside. The weakness is very raw. That you nailed it. Looking back at like his season at Wake Forest, which I think you can get a little bit more from the stats than his season that he just spent professionally, but he played just 20.5 minutes per game, averaged just 5.3 points, 4.5 rebounds, 0.8 assists. He shot the ball 36.8% from beyond the three-point arc on 2.3 attempts per game. I am a bit of a believer in the shot in the long haul, that I do think that there's something there with the way that he can knock down shots. Like I don't think there's too much mechanical issues that you have to work through. It's the athleticism that pops to me. That's the number one thing. He is real deal 6'10". I do believe this guy could end up being like a 1 through 5 defender. I love the work rate. Like he's got an energy that pops off the page whenever I watch him. So this is a little bit more of the lottery ticket pick than I would like, but I would take a chance on Bobby Klintman if it came to it.
Yeah, I like this guy a lot, and I kept him off my big board just for the sake of being able to talk about some other guys here today, because we're probably not going to go beyond our top 10. We have Al Thompson in the house saying, "Good job, thanks, man, thanks for watching." But yeah, 6'10", despite being having really good size, he's not that great of a finisher, which is a little bit of a concern.
Yeah.
He's not a very good pull up shooter. But yeah, like you look at the upside, he's probably too raw for the Sixers. He's definitely a down the road kind of dude when it comes to his potential and upside. But there's a lot to like as a two-way guy, as a versatile wing. That's kind of why, for the most part, I left him off my board.
Yeah.
There's some other guys like Keyshawn George out of Miami. Love him, but like he's so raw.
I did want to ask, so Tijan Salon's been a guy that has shot up draft boards. Klintman has not. He's kind of worked his way, has pretty much sat where he was originally. He was a fringe first-round pick last year, pretty much the same outlook this season. I'm curious what you think kind of the difference or how big the gap is in your opinion on that one.
That's a really good comment, because I feel like both have their swing skills is the shooting, of course. And Tijan Salon, he's another guy with really good size, 6'9", definitely a better shooter at this point. I think definitely more of a on the court, be more of a 3-and-D kind of guy from the jump than a guy like Bobby Klintman. So I think that's a big reason why. I think he's definitely going to be able to impact from the jump a little earlier. But I mean, there's question marks with pretty much all of these prospects.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like he's improved Tijan Salon as a shooter over the last year or so, a little bit better. I mean, he was still only 33% jump shooter, but I like that upside a little more. I don't know. And I think I think his defensive upside is a little better. Tijan Salon has a 7'2" wingspan, and yeah. I don't know. I don't really have anything more to add beyond that. Do you?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed a lot of it there. I've been curious, like watching both these guys. I think they're pretty similar to me. Salon definitely looks a little bit more polished than Klintman at this point, but they're definitely in kind of the same category to me. And I do feel like when I hear them talked about, they're in like different categories in people's minds. So it was kind of just curious to bring that up.
Yeah, and it's a really good question too, because I'm looking at some numbers. Tijan Salon's not a good finisher at the rim either. He only
Yeah.
hit 47.6% of his layups. He was 4 of 27 on runners and one-handers around the lane. And he's a combined 18 of 71 when he puts the ball down in spot-up situations. And only a 70% shooter from the line. So maybe just a tad more polish, but I think that's a great discussion. I don't know.
I also think Salon's very much benefiting from like he's still playing professionally versus everyone else is doing combine stuff, and he's playing well right now. So there's a part of me that's like a little skeptical of like, is he just playing like good basketball at the right time and shooting up because of it? Because obviously like teams can take away way more of seeing him being successful in a game setting versus watching guys go through shooting drills or whatever the case be or measure the combine. So I think like situationally, Salon's been a beneficiary of that as well.
Yeah. We have a comment here. Who has the highest upside in this draft? So I think that we kind of started with that. Like this, I don't know if this draft has superstars. There probably will be one in 3 to 4 years from now. But as of right now, who would you guess has the highest upside?
I think Alex Sarr is the one pick's the right option. I think he does have that type of upside. I probably think his ceiling's a little more limited than one would expect from a one pick. A little bit of a dark horse shout that I'll throw here. I think Isaiah Collier has got a little bit of star potential. I do believe in the talent. I think he really flipped the switch in the second half of the season. He was a guy really widely respected going into this year. Ron Holland, I give an outside chance to as well, that I think that he could put all the pieces together. So that would probably be my top 3 list there. I think I would go Alex Sarr, my other 2 there. I just drew a blank. Ron Holland and of course Isaiah Collier would be probably my 3 there, but it is a little bit all over the place.
It really is. Like, for the most part, I'm looking at my draft board and like there's just a lot of these guys project as role players, like, and a lot of them elite role players, and that's not a negative. A lot, like, that's the future of the NBA. Look at the Nuggets, look at the Timberwolves, finding guys that hit an identity of the roster and can excel at something like a Michael Porter or be major contributors in their system. So it's, again, not the best superstar draft, but if you're looking for role players like the Sixers are, this draft is really deep in them. I think Donovan Clingan could help you guys out with rebounding. He could probably help every NBA team with his rebounding, but he's going to be long gone before the Sixers select. We're going to be talking about some bigs today. We didn't talk about any bigs the first 1 through 5 because that's like my focus. I want guards and wings in this draft. But I felt the urge to talk about some bigs today.
I like it. And I'll say Klingen's probably the number one in this draft for know exactly what he's going to be at the NBA level. That there's like such a clear identity for how things are going to translate for him. It wouldn't shock me if there's a little bit of a push for Klingen to be in that number one discussion as like the draft continues to get a little closer. For that pretty much reason that at least like with Risa Shea and Sarr playing overseas, a little bit more of a gamble. Klingen is about as sure of a thing, and it comes in this specific draft.
Yep. All right, let's roll on to my number 7 here. It's a guy that was already on Sean's list. I think you had him at number 4. There it is. But yeah, Isaiah Collier is a really interesting player. A guy that I was kind of out on from the jump, but the more I kind of looked into him, the more I kind of became more interested because the Sixers have had their fair share of non-shooting guards, and that kind of was a no deal. But yeah, you look at the numbers. He's an oversized guard. He's an elite ball handler. He has plus versatility, high upside on the defensive end. 6'5", 210 pounds. He's got elite physical tools. This is one of the better downhill attackers in the draft. He, uses his power well when he's finishing around the basket. He's not just a north to south guy. He can, shake east to west, and he knows how to use those tools on a consistent basis. And I think, that should give him an advantage attacking the rim at the next level from the jump. And you look at this guy as a playmaker, again, a solid ball handler with a strong frame. He knows how to pass teammates open. He looks excellent pushing the ball, and he's got a really powerful first step. And when it comes to ball handling, he can utilize either hand, and he's tough to contain, and he can turn the corner and attack the rim with ease. So I do think he's more of a score-first guard than he is when it comes to like being a true playmaker. But he does show signs of some floor vision moving forward that I think will ultimately be his main role. If you could develop him into a pure point guard at the NBA level, that's what this guy is. When it comes to weaknesses, the shot. Only 3 3-point attempts per game at 33.8%. He shot 67.3% from the free throw line, which definitely raises questions about his shooting. And, given how effective he is at attacking the rim and getting downhill, you just know NBA defenses are going to have a clear game plan to just sag and, make him beat you with his shot. He's also vulnerable to making careless and forced plays. There are times when he shows tunnel vision. There are times when he's, shot hunting rather than playmaking for others. So staying more mentally engaged, becoming a more consistent shooter, those are, the tickets when it comes to Isaiah Collier. But, not many ball handlers pack as much shiftiness and power as this guy has in the draft, man. He is the home run swing at number 16 that I would be totally okay with.
Yep, and that's the reason I threw him in kind of the star potential conversation. I like Collier, and I kind of approached it from the same mindset as you. When I actually watched during college season this year, he was a guy that I basically was out on leading into the pre-draft process. Particularly in the beginning part of the year, I was really frustrated. And the way that I described his game in a major way was like year one Jaden Ivey, where there was a ton of just relying on the athleticism, attacking out of control, not using your angles. I do think something clicked in his brain after he got injured midseason and then elected to return, which there was a lot of speculation where he would just sit out the remainder of the year as he had kind of this lottery potential pretty much all season entering the year. So there was a lot of speculation that he would just sit out. I give him credit for coming back, and he played his best basketball since that point. So he ended the year really strongly. I do kind of believe the playmaking could take that leap. I don't ever think he'll be like a true traditional point guard, but more of that combo guard type mold I could see him fitting into. The shot's going to be the swing skill that obviously if you can't hit threes at an NBA average level as a 6'4" guard, you're probably not going to last. But there is something special about the way that he attacks the rim in transition. He's terrific. I like him as a decision maker in those kind of settings as well. So I would take a lottery chance on Isaiah Collier, even though it would be tough to pass up from my perspective. So many of these wings that I would probably prefer them take a stab at, but I do think there's something to this guy.
Mr. Sandman says, I prefer great ball handlers, which the Sixers absolutely need.
Yeah. And he is that.
He is that. And I'll say this. I would prefer to take, if we're gonna like do a home run swing on a guard that has red flags, might not be the best fit with Maxey. I'd rather swing for the fences with Isaiah Collier than Rob Dillingham. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Collier, while he's not a stellar defender by any means, I think there's a world where he can develop into at least a pretty good one. There's no world where I see Rob Dillingham. Like, he's going to be kind of cut
Lou
from that.
Williams.
Yeah, or Bones Highlands, who I was going to say is kind of like very small frame that there's just going to be matchups where he can't take. Dillingham like is electric enough offensively that in certain teams, like I've seen him attached to the Spurs a great deal. That would make sense to me when you have a Victor Wembanyama behind you. But situationally, he's going to have a great deal with Dillingham. I agree with you from a Sixers perspective, and for most teams, I would take Collier over Dillingham from just like where the floor is for each of those guys.
Yeah, they're both like projected lottery picks with major upside, but definitely have some concerns. Dillingham, the defense. I mean, that guy's just going to be picked apart at the next level. Yeah, big time. All right. So we just got done with number 7. There's our recap. Klitman to Team Sean, Collier to Team myself. Sean, who's your number 8?
My number 8, and this is where we start getting into the big man conversation here. Khalil Ware, who spent last season with Indiana. Kind of a cool story, the trajectory that Ware took. So entered as a guy that was expected to be an NBA level player. Spent his freshman year at Oregon. Had a really kind of poor season. He played just 15.8 minutes per game. Averages came in at 6.6 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1.3 blocks. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well. 45.7% from the field overall, 27.3% from three. There were also a ton of questions about his motor, his work ethic. He ultimately elected to transfer and spent the season at Indiana, where he did a great job kind of rebuilding a lot of these. I thought he looked much more locked in, much more focused, and the production was significantly better. 32.2 minutes per game. In that time, he added 15.9 points, 9.9 rebounds, so flirting with an average of a double-double there, 1.9 blocks per game, which is really impressive stuff, and the three-pointer did take another stride forward. Shot 42.5% on limited attempts, which is notable here, 1.3 per game. And I'll also say from the free throw line, just 63.4% this year, although he was over 70% last year. So a bit of a mixed bag with the shooting. I do think there is like a pick and pop type potential with him in his game. But the biggest thing that's going to stand and translate from day one, it is his real deal 7-foot frame. He moves really well, wide catch radius. I believe in him as a really high level shot blocker and think that's going to be impactful at the NBA level. I think he's going to be that guy that's like the lockdown rim protector that you can funnel guys into. And I think like catching lobs and being able to finish on that is becoming more and more important. That's another category where the Sixers have never had anything. I don't think it would happen a ton, but I do think there's situations in which Ware could share the floor with Joel Embiid. And I also think he is your long-term project that you're growing into. What can this guy truly be? Is he a floor spacing big? All these things. So I believe in the talent. I think it's worth a shot. I wouldn't be jumping for joy if this is the pick, but I would certainly be okay with it.
I like him a lot. I would be totally in for Khalil Ware. 7'7" wingspan.
Crazy.
Yeah, he's an excellent weak side defender. He's a help defender. He's very good at maybe even defending on the perimeter a little bit. He's not super shifty, but I like him a lot. And I think there's some other bigs too in this range that we're going to be talking about today that kind of share some of those athletic tools that can move a little bit. Mr. Sandman says San Antonio has 2 top 10 picks. Could Morey trade up? Absolutely not happening.
Yeah, if anything, he's going down, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that just makes me upset. Let's move on. Who do you think the Sixers get? Could we possibly get Dalton Connect? I know I'm biased.
I would love him.
Yeah, let me share our screen real quick. But you look at kind of our top guys. Dalton Connect, both were in our top fives. I had him at number 2. Sean had him at number 3. Excellent shooter. He's a bucket getter. I feel like him coming off the bench for the Sixers, providing an offensive spark, would be excellent. But we both agree Devin Carter is kind of the Melton, the like who do you compare Devin
Yeah.
Carter to?
Josh Hart a little bit.
Josh Hart. There's a name that's escaping me. Um, mm, Maybe it'll probably come to me later on. But Devin Carter is a really good one. Jared McCain, if you're looking for a combo guard that can shoot the rock. But yeah, that's kind of where I see the Sixers going, guard and wing at number 16. But let's roll on to my number 8. We're at number 8. I don't
Yep.
remember.
Yep. Number 8.
And the guy we're talking about here is a guy that I love, and I have from the jump. But is Deron Holmes out of Dayton, 6'9" without shoes. He has really fluid hips, very mobile, big, 7-foot plus wingspan, and I liked his shooting stroke. Whereas some guys aren't a great shooter that we've talked about so far on our big board. This guy has shot nearly 39% from 3. He's shown an improvement from downtown. He's been utilized at Dayton as a pick and pop kind of guy. And that's really what this guy's bread and butter is. He was utilized in the pick and roll heavily, 91st percentile in the half court, primarily as a roll man. And on post ups, 77th percentile in efficiency on post ups, 86th percentile for overall efficiency at the rim. You look at the free throws as a shooter, he went from 66.9% to 71.3% over the last 2 years. And the attempts went up as well, 6.9 to 8.8. And you like his defense as well. Let me put the stats up. There it is. You like his defense upside. I think also his bread and butter in the NBA will be that pick and roll defense. You like the way he moves. And I think that's going to be where he makes an impact early on. Deron Holmes was just one of 6 Division I players who played at least 50% of the team's minutes to have a block percentage above 6.5, a steal percentage of above 1.4, and commit fewer than 2.5 fouls per 40 minutes. Of those 5 players last year, Deron Holmes was the only underclassman. There are some weaknesses. It's whether or not you believe the shot sustains in the NBA. I think it will, because you look at the 2 prior years, he shot just 31% and 14% there. But I think on a better spaced NBA floor in the pick and roll NBA, I see this guy as a high level big off the bench on a lot of teams, or a 5th best starter on a really good team. You look at the rim finishing, you look at the floor spacing, you look at his motor. Deron Holmes, man, does a lot of what the Sixers need, and would also be another guy at number 16 that I would be really happy with.
Yeah, I like him as well. He's done well for himself through the pre-draft process, that he has climbed up the rankings a decent bit to where he does seem to be in play for this type of range, where he was once pegged for kind of a later first round pick. I do believe in the shot as well. I'm optimistic about the way it will translate. One of the things I like about Holmes is you kind of saw just these tangible steps forward he took in his game, that he spent 3 seasons at Dayton. He added a little bit year in and year out. I've seen Naz Reid used as a comp for him. I think he's even more athletic than Naz Reid. He's Holmes, at least at this point, is not quite the level of shooter of that Naz is, for sure. Naz, one of the true best floor spacing big men that there are out there. Him and Karl-Anthony Towns both in the upper echelon in that conversation there. I don't know if Holmes quite reaches that level, but if you're a threat from the pick and pop and you pair that with the athleticism, he can put the ball on the floor, attack a closeout. He's actually got like a really impressive array of finishing in the way that he gets to his spots. He likes the spin move a great deal when he's getting in the lane. So it's a cool little package that he has put together. I do believe in him and like him, and do have him on my list still coming up. So yeah, I'm in on the Holmes train as well.
I see some Jalen Smith, and Jalen Smith is a guy I would love to have on the Sixers, and he could maybe be that guy for Philadelphia. Zach says, just subscribe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love Ware because the Sixers can't win a championship with Embiid. They will trade Embiid and build around perimeter scorers. Ware would be a good role player at center. They're not trading Embiid, at least not now. All right, let's recap real quick. Looking at where we stand. Khalil Ware at number 8 for Team Sean. Deron Holmes for me at number 8. Sean, who's your number 9?
My number 9, and a little shout out to our guy, Mark Henry Jr., who's trying to convince me that this guy should be a lottery pick, but it is Jalen Tyson that is on my list here. Kind of an interesting career arc or so far through the college path that he took. He spent 3 seasons at 3 different schools, started his freshman year at Texas, then transferred to Texas Tech for his sophomore year, and then spent this season at the University of Cal. Played a different role at each spot. Not a lot to take away from his freshman year at Texas. Played in just 8 games at 6.9 minutes per game. At Texas Tech, he was a starter, but he was more of kind of a complimentary piece. He played 28.9 minutes per game, but averaged just 10.7 points, 6.1 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1.4 steals. Still really solid numbers there, but he was more of kind of a on the outskirts. Shot 40.2% from beyond the three-point arc that season on 3.5 attempts per game. And then this year at Cal is where he really flourished into kind of a complete package and NBA level player that he averaged 19.6 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.2 steals. He did see the turnovers increase in more of a high usage role up to 3.1 per game. So about a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio there. Shot the ball a little bit less efficiency on the higher volume on 4.5 per game, connected on 36% of those long range attempts there. About the same from the field overall. I do like him. I do think that there is like not quite the athletic pop as some of these other players that we have in this conversation, but he's that same archetype that we're looking for. Like to compare him to Ron Holland a little bit, I think Tyson's a more polished overall basketball player, but there is that more level of like high level athleticism that Holland possesses that makes his ceiling higher. So I feel more confident in what Tyson can be, but I do think that the ceiling on that is a little shorter than some of these other guys we're speaking on.
Yeah, the more I looked into Jalen Tyson, who I like a lot, definitely a high floor, low ceiling kind of dude. Also a guy that like does a lot of things really well.
Yeah.
But nothing great. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's right. And it's interesting, like I'm way higher on Tristan da Silva than I would say to the consensus. He's kind of cut from like a Tristan da Silva mold, but I just feel like way more confident that the like complementary skills that da Silva possesses as far as entry passes, being a smart cutter, knocking down open threes, things like that. I'm just way more confident won't translate when some of Tyson's I think like could overlap in a little bit more of a lower usage role.
He's definitely got some upside as a shot creator, which is a huge need for the Sixers off the bench. I like that a lot. Zach says Joel just needs help. They can win a championship with him. I'm with you, Zach. You know the Sixers need to stop this star hunting BS. Like get some legit role players around Maxey and Embiid, man. And then we're talking. Then we're talking. Let's get into my number 8. And the guy I'm talking about is Yves Missi. We're talking about some bigs here moving forward. And this guy is one of the more intriguing center prospects in the draft. He's a guy that excels in pick and roll situations. He moves extremely well for his size, looks natural finishing lobs at the basket, and is just starting to kind of put it all together. When you talk about strengths, you start with his upside in the pick and roll. He's an ultra athlete. 7-foot height, 7'5" wingspan, athletic. He's long. Gives me a little vibes of Clint Capella as a playmaker, a guy that has excellent mobility and verticality at that size. And, you know, he's your ideal pick and roll partner due to his understanding of screening angles and physicality and soft hands. You know, the way he's able to catch lobs, blow past off-ball defenders on cuts, thrive in that dunker spot. You could easily see a route where he's Tyrese Maxey's best friend with the Sixers. He's also a really good rim protector. He's a guy that has a quick second jump. He shows a lot of pop. He's a good shot disruptor. And obviously being a high-level defender is what this guy's going to bring early on at the NBA level. In terms of perimeter defense, I think he's solid, but he doesn't have elite change of direction ability. You know, he could maybe be exposed there in the NBA. When you get to weaknesses, obviously is not a shooter. This guy
Yeah.
attempted just one jump shot last year. He shot only 62% from the free throw line. So all signs, point to people hacking this dude late in games just to, due to his inability to convert at the free throw line. And along with his poor shooting, he doesn't fit into any real modern category as a big man. This is your quintessential rim running prospect that can fill a need for the Sixers, but not much more. He's also 19 years old, and he's definitely got a lot of room to grow. But yeah, if you're looking for a backup big that can just protect the rim, roll to the basket, and that's it for a short amount of time, Yves Missi is your guy. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think there are certain NBA situations where Missy would be very successful from like the opening start of his career. I don't think the Sixers are one of them. I have this is less about Missy specifically and more about like the usage of the pick. That I think it would be a mistake to use it on a guy that's just a backup center for Joel Embiid. Like I had Khalil Ware on this list. I think there is a world where Ware and Embiid could share the floor together. I don't see a world where Missy and Embiid can share the floor together whatsoever.
Yeah,
So I
no.
certainly think, yeah, I do think you pair him with, like a guy like Luka Doncic or a guy like James Harden, who's so effective in the pick and roll and can throw great lobs and all these types of things. Trae Young, another guy in that type of conversation, that he can be really impactful right from day one. I just don't know if I see it with the Sixers and would prefer them take a little bit more of an impactful swing than a backup center with that 16th pick.
Agreed. Agreed. Let's recap here. Number 9 for Sean was Jalen Tyson out of Cal, and then Yves Missi out of Baylor for myself. Sean, let's wrap it up. Who's your number 10?
Yeah, my final guy, and I know we talked about him a little bit already, but Deron Holmes here. I am a believer in the shot. I am a believer in the way that the game's going to translate. I do think the athleticism is the real deal. And he's also like a nice combo of being a true rim protector, still a floor spacer on the other side of thing, and the athleticism, he moves like he's more like a forward kind of version of himself. So at 6'10", that type of athleticism, that type of movement, and that potential from the shooting standpoint, I like Holmes a lot. I think he's a bit more of a tweener in that 4 to 5 category than sometimes people are acknowledging. But regardless, he's a good player. I would absolutely take the swing on him. And he's another guy that I've continued to grow more and more fond of as the draft process has continued.
All right, Deron Holmes there. Then I'm going to go with a polarizing guy. I don't know what your take is on him, but the guy I want to briefly touch on, and believe me, these are guys that I am never in on. And the guy I'm talking about is Kyle Filipowski out of Duke. He's an intriguing prospect due to the ways he can be used on offense. He's, offensively, I like his potential as a stretch big. We have seen a lot of nice improvements from him when it comes to 3-point shooting over the last couple of years. He's right around 3.5 attempts per game, but he saw his percentage go up from 28.2% to 35.6%. And then with that ability as a floor spacer, you can utilize him. A team can, play him as a 4 or even 5 out to utilize his shooting there with Embiid. And he's also a really good playmaker in the pick and roll. The Sixers haven't had a guy like this as a big that can move the ball at his level. I think Filipowski's passing is going to be his bread and butter in the NBA. This is a guy that thrives at making good reads. He's a big-time threat as a passer, and I think that's a huge piece of his scoring arsenal. He's strong at finding open teammates. He's an excellent playmaker around, inside and outside the arc. We saw Embiid thrive on the elbow under Nick Nurse. I think this guy could do the same. And I think he's a perimeter-oriented big with versatility on offense with a high skill level. And the passing is awesome. But when you get to weaknesses, he's not an elite athlete. He's 7 foot, 248 pounds, and he's got really good footwork and all that. But I definitely have major concerns about him going up against, the size and the rigors of, NBA players. There's definite tape of him shrinking against bigger, more physical matchups at Duke. And, that athleticism also makes him not a great rebounder, which is a big no-no when it comes to Sixers fans. But any thoughts on Kyle Filipowski?
Yeah, I do like him overall. I don't think he can be a 5 at the NBA level, which is really concerning to me. He's going to have to be a 4, and I still have questions about the shot. Like, he's continually is labeled as this stretch forward, and when he's still kind of a more theoretical one than anything. Like, even this season when he took a stride forward in his shooting, still just 34.8% from beyond the three-point arc on 3.1 attempts. His free throw shooting also got worse this year, going from 76.5% as a freshman to 67.1% this year. So I'm not as sold on him as a shooter as I kind of need to be in this type of spot. But I'm with you that I think playmaking is going to be the number one thing. That I see there's a real world where effective offenses run where whenever a team is blitzing the ball handler, you get a little dip pass to Filipowski, create like the 4-on-3 advantage in the half court. And he is kind of the decision maker. A guy like Bruce Brown is excellent at that. We've seen Derek Lively thrive with that with the Mavericks. I do think he can be very good at that, but I just need to be a little bit more sold on either the shot or the rebounding to kind of feel confident in him in this type of draft range.
Agreed. Zach says, I heard LeBron wants to play with his son. If we get Bronny, we get LeBron. Do you see that happening? What we've done so many shows on this, Zach, but that is definitely one of the clear paths to the Sixers, getting to the finals is doing exactly that, making a deal with the devil,
Yeah.
bite the bullet, bring in Bronny, and you sign LeBron. And I'm not a LeBron guy, so just for the record. But I as a player, as a fit, there's not many better options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need Tyrese Maxey to work his little Clutch Sports tampering machine, whatever it is right now. Get in that room. I know you're negotiating contract. Have some words with the big fellow LeBron if he has any interest in Philly, because I would need that assurance that LeBron is definitely interested in following his son. And if we do want to call a spade, like the Sixers with Maxey and Embiid has a higher chance of winning a championship next year than the Lakers as they're constructed, or really any route I think they have to get better. So if he does want to win, the Sixers are a decent spot. Who knows? But those conversations need to be had, even though they're not allowed to be.
Mr. Sandman says Joel doesn't have the endurance to lead a team through the NBA playoffs to the finals. He always runs out of gas. We got Chad in the house. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining. I love Duke players. They usually transition well to the NBA. Is that true?
I mean, they got their hits and misses for sure.
I feel like there's more misses than hits when it comes to Duke, but
Kentucky, I would consider the gold standard for NBA
yes,
translation,
for
but
sure.
every school, like Kentucky, has misses as well. Scal Labissiere or Labissiere was a first round pick from Kentucky. So they got their misses. Everyone does.
That's a good one. Sometimes you have to go through hell to find paradise. Hi guys. We got someone from the UK. I'd love the Sixers to grab Tristan Da Silva, Jared McCain, and Kyle Filipowski. We've covered all those guys. And I've got individual scouting reports videos on all of them. So go check that out. Chad says LeBron James could come to the Suns and be their starting point guard. Suns really need one. LeBron James could go to every single NBA team.
Yeah.
I'm sure they could use him.
You also have to be willing to take a minimum for that Suns team there, which I don't know if I see that happening.
That Suns team is a mess, man.
Yeah, big time.
Geez, that is completely falling apart. Let's wrap it up. Let's throw out some guys like dark horses, maybe like guys that you would be okay with at 16, or maybe second rounders that you think could be a good fit. Any guys in particular?
Yeah, go ahead. You got any offhand?
Yeah, Bub Carrington out of Pitt,
Okay.
A shot maker, shot creator, bucket getter, good size. He's raw. He's young, but I like that role for him off the bench. A guy that I also really like in that second round, Johnny Furphy, if he falls. Really good wing, floor spacer type of dude. What about you?
Yeah, Justin Edwards is really interesting to me from Kentucky, a highly ranked guy that essentially was just outplayed by Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham. I do believe in the talent level there. He seems to be a second round type pick, which I think that's worth an upside swing there for sure. Baylor Shireman's a guy I really like that I see. I think he's going to be like another one of these guys that we're talking about that's just a connective piece on a high level team, that I think he can be a fifth option on like a contending team year in and year out. I think he's worthy of a first round pick by a team in this draft. I like him quite a bit. Tyler Kolek, a little bit in the same category, although I don't think, he's like tremendous out of the pick and roll, and he competes too, that dude. So I do think he lands on his feet and sticks around the NBA. Let me think who else I got. A couple of I'm curious your thoughts on Ryan Dunn. I'm out on him,
Ah!
but
He's
what are your thoughts?
basically a rich man's Matisse Thybulle. I don't know if it's rich man. Maybe he is Matisse Thybulle. Maybe the shot's even worse. I don't know. But his like in an NBA draft that has a lot of question marks with a lot of these players, like he's got the one skill that is, step on the court in the NBA and do it at a really high level. Ryan Dunn's defense is elite as it gets. Like
It
he
is.
could be an all NBA defender from the jump in the right situation.
Yeah, and one of the things that really frustrated me about Matisse is I consider him like a fake defender. Like it was all steals, blocks, and getting in passing lanes, poking it out from behind. He very rarely like dug his hips in and slid with the dude on the perimeter, didn't let him get by him. Ryan Dunn will. Like he's more of a dog defensively. He's got more of that motor than Matisse did. But I think he might even be less talented offensively than Matisse is in that category. I can't deal with it from the Sixers perspective that we've tried this type of archetype with Ben Simmons, with Matisse Thybulle. I will be curious very much how he projects. I'll also throw out Trey Alexander's intriguing for me out of Creighton, as is Antonio Reeves. Those are probably the biggest guys that jump out. And the last one, Tyler Smith, another G League Ignite guy's intriguing. Defensively, he's got a ways to go still, but he's worth a flyer in my opinion as well.
Some other second round guys that I would definitely be intrigued if they keep the pick. Dylan Jones out of Weber State. He's more of a bully guard, bully forward than anything. He's going to rebound on the basketball court. That's definitely key. Keep an eye out for Dylan Jones. Kevin McCullough Jr., another guy that I think if he falls into round two, would be a home run selection. Any thoughts on Terrence Shannon Jr.? Is there a chance that he falls out of round one due to all the allegations and things going on there? Would you roll the dice on Terrence Shannon Jr.?
I think he pretty certain will fall out of first round because of all the legal process that's playing itself out. I don't know what fully the updates are on that. Last I'd read into it, that it's not looking great. That it seems like it's trending towards him potentially not being available to play basketball and in jail for whatever for the situation that went down there. So I don't know what the full context of that is from a basketball player. Like he's absolutely a first round talent, but I do think that like this is going to be something where the legal process overrules that.
Yeah, I agree. There's probably a better chance he falls out of the draft.
Yeah.
Period. Zach says, when's your next live show? We have Neil Hartman, a Neil Hartman interview at 7 o'clock on Philly Press Box Radio, and then Edge of Philly Sports Live goes live at 8:30 tonight. So all Eastern times. Anybody else? Who are we missing? I like the Tyler Kolek throw out. That guy was a really fun watch.
Yeah, he's a good player. Jamal Shad, I'll throw a little love on too. I hope he hears his name called. He's going to be a guy that I pretty much have no doubt is going to stick around the NBA. He might even be the best, like as from the guard perspective, like guy to pick up 94 feet. Jamal Shad might be the best in this entire draft. Was the heart and soul of that Houston team. He's really talented. He's a winning player. He doesn't shine statistically as much as I think he is just a really good player. But I would really like to see his name called in this draft. I think he sticks around the NBA for a long time.
That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, we didn't really talk about him, but Keyshawn George, very young freshman out of Miami, great size for a shooting guard. He shot 40.8% from three, but my God, is he raw? He's super raw. But another kind of guy that fits that mold of potential role player at the next level. So that's another name, probably for number 16. Not a guy that I think the Sixers will roll the dice on. But anyway, Sean, let's wrap it up. Where can we find you, man? What do you got going on at Fox Sports The Gambler? All that stuff.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. I will be on air with Sean Brace, I believe at 3 o'clock today. He was actually texting me during this, so we're getting that settled, but probably 3 o'clock. You can check back for updates there. Also be live over on Pick Swap Media at 5:30 today with Ryan Coyle talking the top 5 centers in this year's draft. So breaking down the big man position a little bit there. And yeah, a couple other big things in the work. Got some prospect stuff coming out on Pick Swap Media. Did a live yesterday on Sixers Digest, so check that out if you have not yet. So yeah, a lot of stuff rolling on.
All right. If you love the Sixers, the NBA draft, or anything NBA, go check out Sean Does an amazing job there at Sean_Bernard1. If you love the Eagles, we did an all-time worst Eagles player draft last night. Go vote for who has the best squad of worst players. It kind of sounds funny when you say that, but that was a really fun show. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be live again, Party on Broad, Monday nights at 9 o'clock. So we'll see you then. He is Sean. I am Dobbs. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay